I'm going to turn it over to you to answer.
Do we ever really know for sure that it's going to work? I think you have to have hope. I mean, life is always going to throw stuff at you. That is 100% true. And I mean, if we don't mind doing the personal stuff, I mean, I'll tell you, I was working at that Compassionate City Burlington job for 5 months, and then I got diagnosed with colon cancer. So your life implodes. And this is not, I know that's not anthropology related, but it's just finding your way through these situations. So, I mean, you got to hold on to that hope, because that's so important in whatever the hard thing is. And, for me, it was the colon cancer for a while there, and I'm super lucky. I'm good now, but you always must hold on to hope and finding your community to help you through that. Find your people and they will help you, because you will get through it. You're going to be all right. Like all of you, we're going to be all right. It might not look like what you think it's going to look like, for sure. I mean, my life has not, but it's cool. You got to embrace those good and bad. So that's my high level philosophical answer. Does anyone have a more specific one?
I've got a few thoughts. So I think one of the most important things is just to have the courage to explore new things, even if you don't think it's something that you necessarily want to do, to just try it and see. Because what will happen, even if you're doing something you don't like, there's learning to be had there, and there's experience that you gain that you can speak to in something like a job interview. And having diverse experiences is definitely something that employers are looking for. If you have a variety of different skills, that is, golden. It's so marketable. And I liked, Jen, what you said about finding your people, because for me, that's the way I found my people. Even if I was in a job that I didn't like, I would find others who are kind of like me. And then we would all, complain together. And eventually we move on to other jobs, and all of a sudden, people here, there, and everywhere, because you've dispersed from this place that you maybe necessarily didn't like. It's through talking with them about your experiences with your people that you do actually find new opportunities and new jobs. So I think if I hadn't been complaining with my best friend about how little I enjoyed driving all over southwestern Ontario, I loved teaching, but I hated, the grind of it. And I don't know that she would have suggested that I apply to go into government. And that was ultimately the suggestion that just opened all these doors for me. And so, and I found her through, I had taken a job at a cultural resource management firm initially because, I needed a job. It was in the field, but I was doing mostly clerical work, or like menial, like washing artifacts, like not anything super groundbreaking. But if I had said, oh, that's beneath me, I want to be analyzing the artifacts, or I want to lead a field crew, then, I never would have met her. And, so the things have a knock-on domino effect. And if you come at them with a positive attitude and an open mind, there are always things that you can learn. And then just talking about, what you want openly with others, telling them, I'm not happy here, or this is where I really want to go, then, there may be opportunities that they know of that you don't. So, so that's what I think of in terms of advice around, I didn't know everything would work out, but there are strategies that you can employ to get where you want to go, even if you don't necessarily know where that is right now. You figure it out as you go along.
And if I can jump in just again, I think exactly what Crystal was just saying, and Zena, I really want to hear what Zena has to say as well. But I think it's also valuable to figure out what you don't like. I mean, you have these experiences, and it's on it exactly like Crystal was saying. Try stuff, talk to people, do all those things, and then when you find the stuff you don't like, that's great. Then you have a boundary you can set, or if you have a really terrible job, you can figure out where your limit is for, yes, I need this money, but where can I go and figure it out in the meantime and to get myself out of here, and what's my sort of upper limit for what I can take. I mean, those are all important things to know.
I would say, first of all, that is so not a silly question. That is a very valid question that I think we all feel sometimes in our lives, but definitely around the time that we're supposed to be these like grown-up people, all of a sudden with careers, it's obviously a very unsure time. So not a silly question at all. I think back to when I was doing as I mentioned, I went to psychology first at King's. The woman who was my thesis advisor for my undergrad, she was also the chair of the psychology department. And she told me then to, whatever you end up doing in life, don't close any doors because you're so sure of your final goal. Because what happens is if you're so concentrated on like, I must be this thing, that opportunities present themselves and you just completely ignore them. And she shared with me that she was actually trained as a classical ballerina, and that's what she thought she would be doing. And then here she was, decades later, the chair of the psychology department at a great university. So whatever road you start walking, it's going to lead somewhere. So having an open mind, as others have said, is so important. And I think the other thing is, what held me back for a very long time is not having a clear answer to the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I feel like often when you talk to career coaches, when you might have a mentor later, that's the first thing people ask is like, look, where do you want to be? And I find that question is just so ridiculous. And I'm really just starting a campaign to abolish it, because that's, again, it's good to have goals. It's good to have ideas of, I think I'm going to do this. This is where my passions are. Of course, you need to have those, but you might not, right? You might just be like, I don't actually know what I want to do. And that was me for a long time, and it really held me back. So my approach now that I try to implement much more in my career, my personal life, is like, what is the next right thing? What is the next available thing? If I look around in my work environment right now, oh, that looks interesting. Like, I'll put up my hand for that, or volunteer positions, as others have mentioned, or talking to people. Like I feel like we put such an emphasis on this long-term view of what our career should be, and it should be this ladder, and then we're climbing it, and everyone's like, sure. And like, that's just BS. No one actually does that. It's very unlikely, and most people don't feel that way. So yeah, I would say, like, good to have long-term goals, but really staying grounded in like, what's the immediate things around me that I can start doing right now that align to my values, as others have said, to my interests. That's what's going to move you forward. And I can definitely say, like others have mentioned, that I can look back on things that happened in the past where I might feel like in the moment I didn't know why that happened, or I didn't want to be at that job, whatever it is. And now I can look back on it and say like, oh, but it's still moved me forward. It still gave me the skill. It still gave me this experience. So yeah, keeping an open mind and trying to be a bit more present versus I have to have this all figured out right now is key.
Crystal, please.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on that. I think that's a really good point, that you can't predict where it's going to go, and the idea that you can know in 5 years where you're going to be is a bit preposterous right now in this current, job market. I didn't have my first permanent, like grown-up job where I'm employed indefinitely at something until I was 34. So, and then since then, in the 6 years I've been in government, I've held 4 different positions. So the idea that you're just gonna like work your way up in some kind of a linear manner, it's just not a reality for many people anyway. And I think certainly for younger generations. So like getting your mind around that, you know what, it's okay to try different things, and some things are going to work out and some things aren't, but it doesn't make you, like a failure as a person to say, I don't know what it is that I'm doing or where I'm going, because most of us, to Xenia's point, like we just don't, we don't know. And that just having the flexibility and the courage to just dive off the deep end into something goes a long way, and to say, I'm going to figure this out as I go along. Like, it's not you know, we shouldn't be judging people negatively for doing that. In fact, that's where the opportunities lie, that willingness to try different things. That's just the environment that we work in now. And